Friends, today we will be dealing with origin of life. Now when we talk about life, life can be defined in many ways. As a physiochemical entity which exhibits reproduction, irritability, adaptation, locomotion, etc. That is, whenever we talk about characteristics of life, we need to consider a few things like cellular organization, growth and development, respond to changes in the environment, using use of energy, reproduction, adaptation to the environment, etc. Now, the earth was formed around 4.5 billion years ago. Because we are talking about origin of life, we need to understand that from where it started. And as we date back, we understand that earth was formed around 4.5 billion years ago. It took approximately 500 million years for the crust to solidify. If you have seen my previous videos, you will know about nebula theory and Big Bang theory, that how origin of earth happened. And then we are studying now that how origin of life and different theories related to origin of life. Now the oldest fossils of microorganisms are 3.5 billion years old. So why we are talking about fossils over here? Because fossils act as a direct evidence in terms of evolution. Okay, and to understand many things in the past, fossils act as a direct evidence. And when we talk about oxygen, it began accumulating in the atmosphere about 2.7 billion years ago. Okay, now why we are talking about oxygen again? Oxygen is essential for living. Okay, we cannot imagine our life without oxygen. So these are the basic facts which we know. After knowing all these things, have we ever wondered how the first life form on earth came into existence? Now this is a very basic questions which keep on coming in our mind and which has always been in our mind from our childhood, that who started this life, from where we have come. Okay, obviously if you ask this basic question to our elders, what will be the answer? Okay, have we ever tried to question this particular question to our parents, to our grandparents, to our friends, to our teachers, etc.? Now we know this very clearly, that when we question this thing to our grandparents, what will be the response? And like if you generally ask that who has created this earth, who has created this life, I think the one answer which we'll get is God. Okay, so let us see different theories which has come. There are many biologists, there are many other people who have come up with different theories, and we are going to see some of the famous theories of their own time. Okay, now what we can see in this slide, several attempts have been made from time to time to explain the origin of life on earth. So there are different people who came up with their own theories. So there are several theories which offer their own explanation on the possible mechanism of origin of life. Okay, now few of them which are quite famous is theory of special creation, theory of spontaneous generation, theory of biogenesis, theory of biochemical evolution, theory of panspermia, and deep sea hydrothermal vent theory. Okay, so let us start with theory of special creation. So as I had told in my previous slide, there was a question that when we ask our grandparents that who has created this earth, from where this life has begun. Okay, so this one answer will be it has come or it has been created by God. Okay, so this is one of the theories which is still valid for most of the people. Okay, so this theory was actually proposed by Father Sudres. So he was a Spanish monk, okay, who lived from 1548 to 1670, and it is based on the biblical book of Genesis. Okay, now what it says that the sun, earth, plants, animals, man were created by God. So this we all know, and in whichever religion you take, it has always said that it is God who created man as man, horse as horse, insects and insects, as insects, and so on. They have been living as such without any change from the day of creation till now. Okay, so you take whichever religion, it is always said that it is the God, it is the ultimate supreme power who has created this earth, who has created this life. Now, let us start with Christian and Islam belief. Okay, now God created this universe, plants, animals, human beings in about 6 days. Okay, or someone says seven days. And the three main postulates for that, that is, all different kinds of animals and plants were created at once. That is, within no time, God have so much of power that within no time he created all of them at once. The second postulate says all organisms were created in the same form in which they exist today. That is what we said before, that God has created man as man, horse as horse, insects as insects, and so on. Okay, then their bodies and organs have been designed to fully meet the needs of the environment. So whatever is the requirement of the environment, we are designed in that particular way. Okay, but you take any of these beliefs, even for that matter Hindu belief, where we say that Lord Brahma created the living world in one stroke. So we know this in Hindu concept, we have got Tridev, that is Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Mahesh, where we say Lord Brahma is the creator, Lord Vishnu is managing the whole world. Okay, and whereas Lord Shiva is called as the destroyer. Okay, so these are the three Tridevs, and we always say that Lord Brahma is the one who has created the living world in one stroke. But all of that has no scientific basis. That is, we have not seen God, so we don't have any scientific basis for this. Yes, so when we talk about religion and evolution, this is what we said, that if you see from different religions' perspective, everywhere it is said that it is the God who created the universe. Now let us think from Christianity point of view or Islamic point of view, where they say that day 1 and day 2, water covered the earth. Day 3, dry land and plants came. Day 4, sun, moon, and stars appeared. Okay. Day 5, sea and flying creatures came. Day 6, land animals and man came. Man, woman. Okay. And by the 7th day, God rested. So this is what we say in different religion. Okay. And then when we talk about Hindu mythology, I think we all are aware of Dashavatar. Okay. In previous slide, we had seen that the world was created by Lord Brahma. That is what Hindu mythology believes. And in this slide, we can see the whole picture of Dashavatar. Okay. So you can see Matsya Avatar, so there are 10 avatars in Hindu. Dashavatar in the sense what? 10 avatars. 10 avatar, which means 10 avatars are there, which starts from Matsya, then there is Kurma, Varaha, okay, Narsimha, Vamana, Parshuram, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki. So total 10 avatars are there, which is called as Dashavatar. Now, do we consider this theory of special creation wrong then? Do we think that this Bible or whatever mythology we are studying, that is wrong? We cannot completely ignore it. Like if we try to understand its scientific basis, we can connect it. Like according to the evolution, according to the Darwin, he described origin of species, okay, where he says that there was fish, then amphibia, then boar was there, then there is primates which looks half like man and half like an animal, then there is hominidae. Okay, further when we talk about evolution of man, so there is hominidae, which is a dwarf, which is physically less developed and mentally it's very wise. Okay, and also there is Homo erectus. So this we will study further in upcoming videos where I will be talking about evolution of man. So this is Homo erectus, who is living in jungle, and he is a man with certain weapons. Okay, and the last one is Homo sapien, who is considered as perfect man. Now this we can connect with our mythology. Okay, that is, the first one is Matsya Avatar. Matsya in the sense mean avatar, that is nothing but fish. Okay, Second is Kurma avatar, which means it is an amphibian. Okay. The third one is Vara avatar. So this we can connect with the boar. Okay. Then there is Narsimha avatar, which we know through Hindu mythology, which was exactly like half man and half animal, that is lion. Okay. That is Nar. Nar in the sense man. Simha means lion. So it is half man and half animal. So again, each and every stage we can connect over here. Then Vaman avatar. Okay. Who is a small Brahmin who was mentally very wise. So again, that we can connect with Hominidae. Next was Parshuram avatar. So Parshuram is again can be connected as Homo erectus, who is living in jungle and he's got a weapon. And the last one is Ram avatar, who can be considered as today's modern man or Homo sapiens, that is the perfect man. Okay. Now, this does not mean that all of what is said in mythology is true, but we cannot ignore it. Rather, we should take good points from that how beautifully in our mythology it is written and how we can connect and take good points from that. Okay. But still it has got no scientific basis because none of us has seen it. Okay. Yes. Now we'll come to the next theory. So the first theory which we studied was theory of special creation. Now the second theory which we will study is theory of spontaneous generation. Okay. Now we all know what is the meaning of spontaneous, that is sudden generation. Now, this theory in which it is said living things originated spontaneously from inanimate objects. Okay. So it is said that it is living things has originated, that is they have born spontaneously, that is suddenly from the inanimate object. This word is very important. Inanimate, that is any object which is, or we can say it is not originated from any living thing. It is originated from a non-living thing. That too spontaneously, that is suddenly. So it is also called abiogenesis or biopoiesis. Now what is the meaning of abiogenesis? Abiogenesis means A we refer as no. Okay. A non-living substance. A non-living substance we will call abiogenesis or biopoiesis, that is generation from a non-living thing. Now the supporters of these were Aristotle, Epicurus and von Helmont. So these three were the ones, okay, there are many more, but they said that the formation of life from non-living substances is happened, okay. But this belief of abiogenesis started from around 300 BC, that is before Christ, and continued until 17th century. Okay, like Aristotle, who is also called as father of biology, he believed that fishes originated from mud. Okay, he believed that fishes and frogs originated from mud. Okay, Epicurus, who was there, he believed that worms and many other animals originated from soil and manure by the action of sun and rain. So he had different belief. Then von Helmont, he is also called Van Helmont, who lived from 1577 to 1644, he believed that mice originated from wheat grains and dirty cloths. So they had different beliefs based on their observation. Okay, we cannot blame them, at least they observed during that time. And a wide variety of scientists like Thales, okay, believe that barnacle goose, that is, I hope everyone knows what is barnacle goose. It's a variety of marine bird. It hatched from barnacle. Okay, so many people believed in abiogenesis, that is Anaximander, Newton, Plato, Descartes. So all of them actually were the supporters of abiogenesis, okay, which is also called as spontaneous generation. Now the one who were against this abiogenesis were Francisco Redi, Spallanzani, Louis Pasteur. Okay, they completely opposed this theory. Now why they opposed this theory? Okay, because they believed in biogenesis. That is completely opposite of this, that is theory of biogenesis. And to prove this wrong, they also came up with different experiments. Now, this Francisco Redi, who was opposing this, he came up with an experiment famously called as Redi's experiment. Okay. Now what he did in his experiment, let us see that. So he boiled some fishes. Okay. Now Redi boiled some fishes in a flask for hours together. And the boiled fishes were placed into 3 jars. So you can see jar 1, this is jar 2 and this is jar 3. So he took 3 jars and he placed this boiled fish into these jars individually. Now what he did, the first jar which was there, he didn't cover it at all. Okay, he didn't cover it. The second jar which was there, he covered with parchment paper, and third jar which was there, he covered with muslin cloth. Okay, so what he did, he took fishes, he boiled them. At the same time, he took 3 flasks, that is 1, 2 and 3. So 1, 2 and 3, and he put those boiled fishes into them. The first one he kept uncovered, second he put parchment paper, and third he covered with muslin cloth. After few days, he saw that there were some maggots, okay, which appeared in the first jar. So some maggots came, some insects came over there, some flies were observed on the first jar. Okay, so flies were observed on the first jar, but it was not observed in the second and third jar. So it was not observed in second and third jar. Now, since the first jar was kept open, flies freely entered and laid their eggs on the boiled fish. So based on his famous experiment, he said that I didn't cover the first jar, and that is why what happened, that the flies entered freely in the first jar. They laid their eggs on the boiled fish. These eggs hatched into maggots, and since the second and third jars were covered, okay, the second and third jars were covered, the free entry of flies and their laying of eggs were prevented, and hence maggot could not appear in second and third jar, okay, because it was covered. So this is a very famous experiment by Francisco Redi which opposed abiogenesis. So over here Redi wanted to explain that living beings can come only from a living being. It cannot come spontaneously from a non-living thing. The second experiment was done by Spallanzani. Okay, so in 1765, what he did, he boiled meat broth for several hours in the flask, and then the flask were sealed. Okay, so he sealed those flasks, and what he did was when the seal was broken, the contents were tested and no life was found. So basically what Spallanzani did, he also did quite similar experiment wherein he took the boiled meat, he boiled them for several hours, and then he kept in a broth, similar broth which you can see in the picture. He kept in the same type of broth, and when the seal was broken after some months, he said the contents were tested, and when the contents were tested, there was no life found. But there were people who were supporting Biogenesis, and those people said that when he boiled those meat, that time the vital force which was necessary for abiogenesis, he took it. Especially Gay Lussac claimed that boiled and sealed flask did not contain oxygen, and hence life did not arise. Okay, so that was Spallanzani's experiment, which had to face a lot of criticism. Okay, so it had to face a lot of criticism. Now, then comes a famous biologist, that is Louis Pasteur. Who is famous for his pasteurization. Okay, now when Pasteur came, he gave a death blow to abiogenesis by his experiment. Okay, and his experiment rectified all the criticism met by Spallanzani. Now what he did, he selected this swan-necked flask for his experiment. So he selected swan-necked flask for his experiment, and it allowed the entry of free air. Okay, so free air could go from this, but did not allow viable microbial particles. So again he boiled meat broth in this flask for several hours. So you can see the two flasks over here, he boiled the meat for several hours. Then he allowed the flask to remain unsealed for several months. And when he observed that there was no growth, okay, there was no growth in the first one, that is, this is a swan necked. It is a swan necked flask which actually disproved the theory of abiogenesis. Okay. Now after several months, what happened? This neck was broken. So you can see in this down picture, the neck was broken. And when it was broken, then what happened? The contents of the flask was brought into contact with the atmosphere, and soon after simple microorganisms appeared in the contents and there was microbial growth. And hence Pasteur experiment again proved everyone wrong who were supporting abiogenesis or abiogenesis. Okay, so this is biogenetic theory. Okay, so we can say there are two theories over here which we have studied now, that is abiogenesis and biogenesis in the same slide. And previously we had seen special theory of special creation. Now we will move to the next theory, that is called as theory of panspermia. It is also called as Cosmozoic theory. Okay, now this theory was proposed by Richter in 1865. Okay, now it is also supported by Arrhenius, and there were few suggestions which Arrhenius gave in 1911. Now what does this say? Life had come to Earth from other planets of the universe in the form of resistant spores. Okay, what does this mean? That according to this theory, the life of our planet Earth came from other planets. That is, this theory claims that life was distributed throughout cosmos in the form of resistant spores. So there are some resistant spores which are found throughout the universe. Okay, and these resistant spores are of living forms. So these spores are called as cosmozoa. Okay, they are called as cosmozoa, and that is why this theory is also called as, so this theory of panspermia is also called as theory of Cosmozoic theory. Okay, now there are few things which are there, that is, British astronomers Fred Hoyle and Chandra proposed interstellar dust and comets contain organic compounds. Okay, comets, we know comets which are largely made up of water ice carry bacterial life across galaxies and protect it from radiation damage along the way. So there are many things which are there. Okay, you can see a picture also over here. Dr. Richard B. Hoover, who was an astrobiologist with NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, published a paper on March 4, 2011, claiming to have found fossil evidence for cyanobacteria in an extremely rare class of meteoroids, okay, called as C11 carbonaceous chondrites. So he has discovered this. He had published a paper on March 4, 2011. Now, these cosmozoa which they were talking about, according to them, they are roaming in our universe. Okay, they are roaming and they are some living forms, and these cosmozoa reached the earth, and on getting favorable conditions on our planet, they developed into organisms. Okay, so how were the cosmozoa transported to earth? This is an obvious question. So for that, Richter suggested that they reached earth by simply floating in the atmosphere. Okay, and there were also different astrobiologists who came up with the fact that they reached earth through meteoroids. And Arrhenius, as we mentioned before, that he supported this theory in 1911, suggested that they reached earth by the pressure from stellar rays. Okay, so there were many supporters for this theory. Okay, fine. Now let us see some other theories. Like there is one such theory called as theory of eternity of life. Now what does this mean? That life only changes its form, but it's never created. That is, life has never been created, it is just keep on evolving. Okay, it is changing its form. It has no origin and it has always existed. It is eternal. Okay, now this theory was proposed by Pasteur in 1880, And according to this theory, like non-living matter, life also existed on this earth from the very beginning. And the universe is unchangeable, okay? And life also exists as such without any change. Well, no one supports this theory though, okay? So this theory is not at all accepted. The next theory is theory of Catastropism, okay? Now this is a modification theory of special creation, and this was proposed by George Cuvier, okay? He lived from 1769 to 1832, and he thought that the universe has been subjected to catastrophes, or you can say destructions, of sudden revolutions at different intervals in the past. So these destructions include Earth's crust the upheavals of mountains, different forms of pattern which we see. And owing to catastrophes, the organisms living in such areas were destroyed, and these areas were repopulated by organisms migrating from other regions. So that's what we said, states that there have been several creations of life by God, and each preceded by catastrophe resulting from some kind of geological disturbance. Now, once that disturbance was there, like let us imagine that there was a mountain, okay, and it had some life already which was created by God. But what happened? Suddenly some destruction happened, okay, some catastrophe happened. That is why we call it as theory of Catastropism. Some destruction happened suddenly, due to which whatever life was there on that particular mountain was completely destroyed. And it was much later that other species came due to migration, and they started living on that, okay. So this was proposed by Cuvier, okay. So this is theory of Catastropism. Now the next thing is vitalism, okay, which means only living tissue by virtue of possessing some life force can produce organic compounds, okay, like the production of acetic acid from its elements, okay. So this was supported by Berzelius and Bergson, but it was disproved by German chemist Hermann Kolb in 1845, where he showed that it is acetic acid production has been from its elements, okay. So this theory was again disproved, okay. So we have seen different theories of origin of life, and most of them have got a lot of limitations, okay. And if all these theories are wrong, if all these theories have got a lot of limitations, we need to understand that what is a correct theory of evolution, or what is a correct theory of origin of life, okay. After all this comes the final theory and the most important theory, that is theory of organic evolution, which we will see in our next video, okay. So these were the theories other than organic evolution which were proposed. They were very famous during their times, and many people have followed these theories for decades together, okay, rather to say centuries together. But when theory of organic evolution came with proper evidences, proper experiments, most of these theories were disproved, okay, they were proved wrong. So in the next video we will see theory of organic evolution, okay. So thank you everyone.